Hey, it's Conor here in Buenos Aires, sunny day. Tonight gonna catch a plane over to New York. This week's video, why leaders fail. Three things that are the big drivers of why leaders fail. Poor relationships, poor self-awareness, and inability to change and grow and adapt. Hey, it's Conor here in New York, Park Lane Hotel. Show you some of the New York skyscrapers out of the window here. It's not the best view nor the best blue sunny day. Three reasons leaders fail: relationships, self-awareness, and openness to change. If you're poor in these three areas, it's very, very difficult to lead other people. Let's look at what the symptoms of being poor in relationships are. Now, poor in relationships, there's two aspects. One, relationships where the nature is you have power, the other does not. The other type of relationships, we have a shared vision. We know where we're both trying to get to, and you willingly accept my leadership because we share a common goal. So you can have imposition of power, or we share a common goal and you willingly accept my power. But you got to do some work to ensure that there's a shared vision. So one type of relationship is where we've been clear that there's a shared thing that we're working together, and that is the basis under which you accept that sometimes I will impose my will. But a lot of the time I won't impose my will. I allow the shared vision to take us there. Now, if we have a shared vision, that gives you the right to start challenging me where my leadership is not helping us get there. And that gives you the right to have uncomfortable conversations with me. So if you want to have a type of leadership based on shared mission and vision, I have to be open to you letting me know that you see better ways that I could lead, better ways that you could act. So there's an openness to surprises coming, an openness to allowing the power to be shared because we have a common idea of where we're trying to get to. The next is whether your leadership, the tool you use to get action, would be extrinsic, as in pain or pleasure, rewards or punishments. Any extrinsic use of power is a transactional relationship. I'll give you something, you give me something. But when I stop giving, you're going to stop giving. So it's transactional. Extrinsic, any use of extrinsic rewards leaves a negative emotional trace in the other person. As a parent, if you use extrinsic rewards, I'll give you money if you study for the exam, it leaves a negative emotional trace in your child. You got to be very careful in your use of extrinsic motivation in relationships, because you're not developing the strength within, you're weakening the ability of the other person to motivate themselves intrinsically to the work. So the next level is intrinsic, is helping the people around you enjoy the work itself, seek satisfaction in the work itself. And if you start to build on that path, you move to a stage where being on a team around you is like playing. And the great coaches of great sports team, whether it's basketball, soccer, if you watch the players, they're getting paid a lot of money, but they do not look like they are working. They look very much like they are playing like children. What's the nature of play? I think there's three aspects that you'll see when my daughter, 3-year-old daughter, is at play, or when a highly functioning sports team are playing together. There's three things you'll see, which are low self-consciousness, high learning, and high presence. Low self-conscious, there's a loss of ego and a just engagement with the team. High learning, there's a dropping of the need to be right. I'm not trying to be right and prove that anyone else is wrong. And high presence, when work is play, we're not making an effort to keep our mind here. It's easy to stay present. My young daughter, when she's playing, she's fully there. She's not daydreaming or thinking about something else as she's playing her game. So if a leader can create an environment that turns work into play, then you start to really have relationships that can challenge you. The best leaders, though, create an environment where people actually love the work, and it's not a relationship love, it's love being generous in the pursuit of the vision and the purpose of the team and the organization. Love the quality of the people that are on the team working with them to achieve the result. So if you can achieve those, relationships built around shared objectives and relationships built around working together to create an environment where we love the work, the content of the work, and the quality of the people around us, then those relationships are going to be meaningful, and they're going to be there when you need them, not just when you have money to pay or a punishment to give out. That will be the nature of good relationships as a leader. Second, low self-awareness. Jim Dethner of the Conscious Leadership Institute often talks about leadership, there being a line, and above the line is trusting, generous, open, seeking to learn. Below the line, distrustful, protective, seeking to be right. My ego wants to be right. And we can act from either of those two places. And we can take any action from a position of trusting, generous, or a position of not trusting and protective and I'm seeking to be right. It has a huge impact on others. How do we begin to act not from below the line but from above the line? And personally for me, I think it begins with getting a notepad and starting to write down. If you're good at meditation, use meditation. In my case, I'm poor at meditation, so getting my notebook in the morning and just writing down some thoughts for the day is a way of turning my attention inward and turning my attention into how I am, what I intend for the day. And very often just that turning inside and thinking about what's my intent for the day is going to bring my quality above the line. That I would far rather be a generous, trusting, open person than getting up out of bed and just reacting to each thing through the day. Self-awareness is, about recognizing the state you're in. And I think what's most important, and Jim Dethner says, once you recognize the state, the important thing is to accept it, not to allow another process to begin where you judge yourself. You find yourself not trusting, you find yourself being selfish, you find yourself being self-oriented. If you now kick off a second phase, which is the self-judging, whipping yourself, how can I let myself do this so often, it almost makes the whole thing worse. When you notice that you've dropped below the line, when you notice that you're not acting from the highest quality behavior, just accept that you got here. Accept that you're human. Accept that you will fail many, many, many times, and the awareness of that, and then a decision just to see if we can move back and begin to act from above the line. This is the type of self-awareness that a great leader needs to develop. Not a perfect awareness at all moments, but catching yourself before too long, accepting the behavior, accepting the state you got yourself into, and then just allowing that to go through and moving back and seeing you can get back above the line again, moving to a place of generosity and a place of trusting the world and the flow. So self-awareness. And I think if you're not taking time to move your attention within, to move your attention to what's going on inside, you're not self-aware. Self-awareness, by its very nature, requires that you stop and turn your attention inside and turn your attention back in on itself. I am very poor at sitting still and breathing in any meditation, so for me, it's taking my notebook out and just answering some questions, making some reflections. That's the way I get self-aware. Over the last 3 years, one of the things I do just each afternoon is just put love, hate in my notebook, and all of the things that brought me energy, that made me feel good, that gave me motivation, on the left, all of the things that detracted, that took away from my energy, took away from my motivation on the right. And just stopping each day, mid-afternoon, to reflect on what's adding to my motivation and energy, what's subtracting from my motivation and energy. Just stopping for that moment reconfigures where I am and allows me to seek to get back above the line again. Number 3, poor openness to change. And Jim Defner, what he talks about is ensuring you have a feedback-rich environment around you. A feedback-rich environment, it doesn't happen by accident. You need to cultivate relationships where, if you give a presentation, when I'm teaching, what I will always do every time someone speaks, I will ask everyone who's listening, what did they do well? What behaviors really made a positive impact? What aspects of how they've delivered this speech were powerful, positive, achieved the impact? And then I will say, is there one change that would make this person have a slightly more powerful impact? And just get as many people just to offer their perspectives. And I think when you ask for feedback, you need to be so careful that you're going to take whatever comes. And even if you believe it not to be true, do not get into defensive. Just take the feedback. In my courses, the rule is no feedback on feedback. If I ask for feedback, I take all that comes, whether it's well given or poorly given, whether it's constructive or poorly delivered. I think the question is not, is it true? It's what's in this that I can take and see my activity in a different perspective. But a feedback-rich environment is one that you are asking for feedback, and whatever comes, you are not becoming defensive. You're allowing it to come in. The first time you ask for feedback, people will think it's a test. If they give you any feedback and you block or you justify or you push back or you start to argue, the next time you ask for feedback, they will not give you feedback. It's only where they see that you're honestly, truly open to whatever comes, you do have a greater interest in your growth than in being right. And I think almost all of these 3 categories, the fundamental flaw in a leader that leads to failing in these 3 categories is a need for your ego to be right over a need to grow, to become capable of bigger and greater things. And if a leader inside themselves is allowing the ego's need to be right, to become stronger than the soul's need to grow, then you're going to have poor relationships, poor self-awareness, and poor openness to change. So this is Conor here. Cheers from New York. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. It's Conor here in Buenos Aires. Thank you for your likes, your subscribes, your comments on a trip through Uruguay, Argentina, now headed to the US. And great to be able to make these videos, capture some of these places that I get to see. Thank you for following these adventures. Look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good one.